for 2025-568S2, which is also known as the Budget Trailer Ordinance for the 26-27 biennium, included direction to the Human Services Department to analyze barriers to home ownership experienced by low and moderate income households and identify strategies to increase pathways to home ownership in Pierce County. The ordinance goes on to say that because the county is engaging in efforts to increase the availability of affordable and attainable housing, the analysis should not analyze barriers related to housing supply, but rather it should consider ways to support low and moderate income first-time homebuyers in all steps of the home buying journey, including but not limited to considering homeownership as an option, engaging in housing counseling, becoming housing ready, and identifying affordable, attainable options and assistance programs. There's also direction to transmit a report to council summarizing the analysis and options to address the identified barriers by July 1st, 2026. You can find that report in your packet. And today we have Brian Schmidt, Affordable Housing Supervisor at Pierce County Human Services, to present on this report. And he is accompanied by several folks to provide some further information on pathways to homeownership in Pierce County. They are Kathleen Hosfeld, CEO of Homestead Community Land Trust, Sharana Kildunn, CEO of Tacoma Pierce County Habitat for Humanity, and Tia Dalton, a recent home buyer with Tacoma Pierce County Habitat for Humanity. So I will turn it over to Mr. Schmidt.
Perfect. Mr. Schmidt, thank you for being here today and bringing a team.
Thank you. Good morning, Brian Schmidt, Affordable Housing Supervisor, Pierce County Human Services. So happy to be here today to present our Barriers to Homeownership report. As Ms. Connolly mentioned, Sharana Kildunn is here from Tacoma Pierce County Habitat for Humanity. Kathleen Hosfeld from Homestead Community Land Trust is also here. We felt it really important to hear directly from providers that are working in the homeownership space to give their perspective on what the barriers are that their buyers are facing. And we also have a homeowner that a home buyer that recently purchased a home. So you can hear directly from a buyer that experienced what those barriers are in their homeownership journey. So I'd like to thank everybody that's here today, including our team from Human Services that are here for support. Ms. Connolly went over the background of why we're here presenting this report, but this report is focused on the barriers that homebuyers face and not necessarily the supply challenges that we have for housing. We're charged with identifying what those barriers are, so we did do some research and came up with several barriers, which we'll talk about here pretty soon. We're also going to review all of the existing homeownership programs that are out there for low and moderate income home buyers that can utilize. Not enough, but we're going to review those, talk about those, and see how that all fits into the homeownership picture. And then lastly, we're going to outline steps that we would propose to address the barriers to homeownership. So go to the next slide. We felt it was really important to understand the market when we're talking about what the barriers are to homeownership. It's really fundamental to understanding the barriers that low and moderate income buyers face. In the last 7 years, from 2018 to 2025, and I know that most of this escalation happened 18, 19, 20, 21, and then 22, leveled off a little bit. But according to the Washington Center for Real Estate Research, home prices, the median price of a home in Pierce County of an existing home has gone up 61% over the last 7 years. Doesn't include 2026, but from 2018 to 2025, 61% increase in the median price of a home. That is the 50th percentile home, sales price of a home in Pierce County. As of April of this year, according to the Multiple Listing Service, the median price of a home is $280,000, so it's gone up a little bit. New construction median is $725,000. So if you break out existing home versus new construction, with new construction, you're looking at $725,000 as the median. And as you can see, the homes being built in Pierce County are not in the median price range of an existing. They're a lot higher. So what income is required to become a homeowner? So we did a little math. We came up with two home buyer scenarios. We could take this and we could spin hundreds of scenarios, if not more. But just to give some background and perspective, what income do you need to earn as a household to be able to purchase a home? And again, we made a lot of assumptions. We assumed that 30% of a person's pre-tax income, which is kind of a standard rule for affordable housing, varies by different kinds of mortgage products and different programs, but just for the sake of this exercise, we used 30% as that rule of thumb. We also took best case scenarios with, financial stability, credit, ability to get a down payment. So a lot of things that we had, have good credit scores, have enough cash for down payments on these properties. So we had to make some assumptions. So the two scenarios that we came up with were scenario one, which is the purchase of a median price home for $580,000. With a 5% down payment, which is $29,000, that equates to a loan amount of $51,000. Interest rates right now are around 6.5%, give or take, depending on the type of product. But again, we made the assumption at 6.5%, 30-year fixed rate. The monthly principal and interest payment on that loan is almost $3,500. That's just the principal and interest. When you add in the monthly property taxes, homeowners insurance, and because they're putting 5% down, mortgage insurance, you're adding another at least $750 per month onto that. So we're looking at a mortgage payment of a little over $4,200 a month. And what does that equate to? Using the math, you need an income of about $170,000 per year to buy under this scenario. Again, there's a lot of different scenarios you can do, but we had to make. I'm sure you didn't want to see 1,000 scenarios here, but so we made some assumptions. We came up with about $170,000 per year that is needed to qualify. The next scenario assumes a down payment of 20% on a $580,000 loan. That's $116,000 that someone would need to put down. That avoids the mortgage insurance. Anytime you borrow less than 80% loan to value, you got to have mortgage insurance, but if you're 80% or below, you don't. Interest rate, again, we assume 6.5% on a 30-year fixed rate. That equates to a monthly principal and interest payment of just under $3,000 per month. Monthly property taxes and homeowners insurance, about $600. With this particular, you don't, again, have mortgage insurance. So we have a payment of around $3,500, and that is about $140,000 per year that you would need to qualify under this particular scenario. So based on these estimates, just for context, households need around between $140,000 and $170,000 a year of income to qualify to purchase a home. And again, there's a variety of factors. We did provide some context in the report. We listed out the 80% of AMI income limits and the 120% of AMI limits, which we would consider moderate income. And generally speaking, a household does have to make over and above 120% of area median income to qualify. So that tells us that a household that's earning median income cannot afford a house that is median priced to purchase. So we did a lot of research, came up with several barriers that we identified. Limited number of homes in an affordable price range, making it harder for first-time home buyers to compete in the market. Lower wages and fewer income sources for low and moderate income buyers, in particular single-person, single income earning households. It's really difficult. Higher rates, rising insurance costs, property taxes all contribute to higher monthly mortgage payments, again, which makes it more difficult to qualify to purchase. Limited access to funds for down payment, closing costs, deposits, those types of things was also identified as a barrier. Low credit scores, too much debt, credit cards, car payments, collections, medical debt, student loans, those types of debts were identified as a barrier for a lot of folks. Historically, marginalized groups face higher mortgage denial rates, discrimination during the appraisal process and during the lending process. Renters do not understand the home buying process, and that's a lack of information. A lot of renters think that home ownership is unattainable, and it could be, but there is some paths for home ownership for those folks. Limited or no access to housing counseling, and then language barriers in addition to making everything else more complicated, language barriers and being able to access all of the home ownership resources that are available. So the Human Services Department took those barriers and put it into a survey that we put out for 3 weeks. This was a public survey, but we wanted to get feedback from folks that are working in homeownership, lenders, mortgage lenders, realtors, homeownership providers, and really just the general public to get their feedback on what are the most and highest barriers to homeownership. And also, is there anything we missed? Are there barriers that we didn't identify that in our research that may be out there in addition? So we offered the opportunity for those folks to add that to the survey. The survey is in your barriers report. The results are on page 4, and we rank those by the highest to lowest barriers. We also included additional feedback that we received from the survey. So what did the survey tell us? The survey told us that most effective strategies to address the barriers are really expanding our homeownership assistance programs like down payment assistance. The highest barriers really are income and being able to qualify, and then lack of access to down payment resources, closing cost resources, those types of things. Also expanding programs that subsidize the purchase of affordable homes, which Sharana and Kathleen will talk about a little bit. Housing counseling programs are really important, but a housing counseling program alone isn't enough. According to the survey, we need additional resources for homeownership, for programs like the Habitat program and for down payment assistance programs and those types of programs. So with that kind of leads us in what is out there now? What is the homeownership landscape? What's currently available to address the barriers? And there are several programs. We kind of put it into 3 buckets. We have programs that do restricted resale, Habitat for Humanity, Homestead Community Land Trust. Those are programs where the home buyer purchases the structure, the land is leased on a 99-year basis. In the case of a community land trust, the property is owned by the land trust. In the case of the Habitat program, Habitat owns the land. But that really reduces the price that the buyer pays for the home. So instead of $580,000 for a median home, if you exclude the land value, maybe you're now at $350,000 for the actual home itself. We also have cooperatives. I think the best example of that is the manufactured home park resident acquisitions. There's other types of cooperative models, but residents actually purchase the park or purchase the property, and then they kind of rent from themselves. So that's a resident-owned cooperative model that's also would be considered more of a restricted resale type program. For down payment assistance, there are down payment assistance programs that are available through the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. Those vary from $10,000 all the way up to $150,000 for the Covenant reinvestment funds. The City of Tacoma, for city inside the city, has a down payment assistance program. I believe that goes up to $80,000. Our Human Services Department, through the Pierce County Community Development Corporation, does down payment assistance for buyers in the Habitat for Humanity projects. We do about 20 to 25 of those annually, depending on how the production goes, but we do work on down payment assistance for those programs. There are housing counseling out there available through the Washington State Housing Finance Commission, which has a 5-hour training that is free that folks can go in and sign up for. Habitat is a HUD-certified housing counseling agency as well, so they offer free home buyer counseling through a variety of sites in the county. Washington Homeownership Resource Center does home buyer counseling in addition to foreclosure prevention counseling, so there's a network of housing counseling providers out there that do that work. And we can go to the next slide. So what are we proposing for next steps? Really, I think the easiest to do that doesn't cost anything other than our time is to provide more public information on homeownership. Create a website, create a resource page for homeownership, direct individuals and households that are interested in purchasing a home, promote that page through our communications team, connect folks to all the resources that are out there for homeownership. It's not going to make everybody a homeowner, but it can connect folks that otherwise didn't know or didn't understand that they maybe could purchase a home to be able to do so. We're also looking at options maybe to seek funding, potentially grant funding that could allow us to go up to 120% of AMI. I know there is a big gap between 80% and 120%. Most of, if not all the funding we receive in affordable housing by statute is only allowed to go to households that are 80% of area median income and below. So those are our special revenue funds. That's our home investment partnership. The HUD funds that we get for homeownership only allow us to go up to 80%. Could be some other grant or other programs out there that could allow us to go higher than that. We want to also engage with Housing Counseling Agency and assess the feasibility of maybe expanding home buyer education services and programs and determine what resources would be required to do that. In the report, we said that we would report back to council in 6 months on our progress. So we would be looking forward to doing that, and especially looking forward to the outreach and the public education piece, because that's, again, it doesn't cost anything other than time, but it's something that we can do to really expand the reach and make sure that the programs that are currently out there are publicly known and available to access. So with that, I would be happy to take questions, or we can have Sharana and Kathleen come up and talk. And Tia, our buyer.
Thank you. Let's pause and see if anyone has direct questions relating to the presentation, and then we'll pivot to our guests, and then we'll teamwork, see who else has questions. So we're going to go first to Committee Member Yambe.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks, Brian, for that presentation. I know that Council, I'm grateful, supported this. I remember this was one of the things that I flagged during the budget and earlier processes, because, you know, as the only renter on council, I know my colleagues have rented before, but, you know, I was just trying to see, you know, I know a lot of my neighbors who live in our buildings, you know, have lived there sometimes 20, 30 years, but, you know, rents are fluctuating and going higher, of course, and so people who, even if they wanted to, I know that so many stories of people who want to own a home, but they couldn't even do it. And I think that, you know, in the last couple of years, it's been very obvious that the supply the situation is very obvious to a lot, but this one helps shed daylight on some of the challenges that many people in the community are facing when it comes time to attaining home ownership. And I think that these numbers are definitely staggering, especially with the incomes that are required in order to, in the first scenario, and even the second is a pretty, like you said, you could do thousands of different, you know, different scenarios for different people, but, you know, it shows that there is huge gaps in whether, even if somebody wanted to, versus, you know, those who have the means to, and so, you know, I think this fits. We're all data driven up here, especially, and so this is really helpful. I have a curiosity. The 66 responses from the survey, were we able to track if that's, you know, different places around the county, or is it, you know?
I think we can track the individuals. I don't know if we can track locations. I'd have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure about that.
Is it for a similar survey? Is this about the average number of participants?
We actually got more responses on this survey. We really pushed this one because we wanted to get a really robust response. So this went out through social media. We contacted all of our contacts. We put it out there. We wanted to get as robust a response as we could get from this. There's a lot of surveys out there that are sent out, and it is difficult to get responses, but we did get a good response from the community that we work with.
Okay. Yeah, I filled one out. But yeah, I noticed that some of our partners in the city of Tacoma, like Councilmember Sedalgay and some others, were pushing this out too. So I really appreciate our community partners for that work too. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Committee Member Krueger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Smith, nice presentation. I am curious as to why the regulatory system was omitted from the questionnaire, because we can always redefine affordable to just be a bigger number, which requires more subsidies, versus looking at the cause and effect of the regulatory system and the ever-increasing demands on what has to be put into a house with land and house.
Sure, thank you. The budget ordinance specifically, as I read it, omitted. It wanted to focus on the barriers that home buyers face and not necessarily the supply issue. We know that there's a huge supply problem with affordable housing, but this particular report was guided by the ordinance, which wanted it focused specifically on the barriers that individual home buyers and households face.
Well, I would think that would be a barrier because of the cost of the home. However, it wouldn't necessarily be included if there were homes on the market that, pre-owned. But for a new home, all of that which goes into the home is a barrier. At least I'm thinking it's up to 30-some% now in external costs that have nothing to do with the house itself. And I guess I would think that you would want to put that in there. It didn't say you couldn't put that information in there.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think that you have a great point, and I think when you look at the median price of a new construction home, that is reflected in the cost that developers need to make up when they turn around and sell a home. So, developers have a bottom line, and when it costs $650,000, I'll just pick a number, to build a home, you're going to have a price point that's at $750,000, $800,000. So they're building to that. They have to build higher priced homes in order to make a profit. And that's a lot of what we hear anecdotally from a lot of the developers.
Well, yeah. It's kind of like their employees have to be able to have the incomes to, pay for services or pay for house payments or whatever. But it's like they're building to maybe what is affordable, and that's what kind of makes the house, and what does and doesn't go in it. But because that's generally, people will buy based on what they can afford in their payment. And so it still is, I think it's kind of disingenuous to not include, well, because the impact fees went up, or now they have to do this other study, or the energy codes have increased, and it may take 30 years for the cost of that energy code to pay for itself. Those kinds of things are not. I don't want to say it's hidden, but it's. I think it's disingenuous to not include that in the information. I understand. You're following the ordinance, but I think that information needed to be put in there to let government know what it's really expanding in the cost of a home, and it's conflicting with the goal of having affordable housing. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to Vice Chair Ayala.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. I do want to add just a little tidbit information around what Councilmember Krueger mentioned. I know that there are various development processes and projects out there, and the range for the cost of doing business does vary. I know I have a number, I'm looking at something where they're fees are $60,000 to $70,000 per unit, which is much less than the 30% that we've been hearing from some other folks. And so I do want to, for the record, put out that there are varied housing options, which takes me to my question around home ownership. So we know that it's really hard to get through the door, and especially hard to get through the door when you're talking about a bigger development in terms of housing. Can you share a little bit about things like condo projects or smaller development projects that allow folks to get through that door, maybe build up some equity to possibly transition into something else?
That, yes. I think that kind of bleeds a little bit into our next presentation around the housing action strategy and some of the work that's being done around middle income housing and some of the work that we're having enterprise community partners do, potentially around infill, the 1 to 4 unit infill type housing. Lauren, is there?
I can wait too. I can wait.
The question was around middle income housing, workforce housing, some of the work that Enterprise is doing, potentially to get price points that are, yeah. But yeah.
I'll wait. Okay, so then second, this is kind of a two-parter. What are we doing presently to do the home buying education work in terms of letting the public know about the options?
Yeah, we do have some resources on our webpage about that. We do, when we get inquiries, we do direct them to the Housing Finance Commission or to the Habitat programs for the housing counseling. So that is something we do. We want to really build that out more and get more communication out about homeownership. We've done some promotions through communications, but we want to do more of that. So that's connecting folks is kind of what we're currently doing.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then has there been any discussion on aligning communication with what I'll use Tacoma, for example, just because it's a bigger city, with what Tacoma is doing in terms of that education? Yes.
I think our page is not just what the county and Human Services is doing, it's really connecting folks to everything that's out there. City of Tacoma has some homeownership programs, down payment assistance primarily. They also are a funder of Tacoma Pierce County Habitat, and so they fund homeownership. But that's kind of what we really want to build out and expand on, is not just a page that what we're doing in Human Services. It's more, you want to become a homeowner, here's all the resources that are out there, and trying to build that out.
Got it.
And promote it through our communications.
Got it. Thank you. I want to add anecdotally, I was very lucky enough that when I purchased my home, my lender told me about a home buying class that allowed me to put down 3% on a home, which is probably everything I had in my bank at the time. But a lot of that was catalyzed because my rent at the time was more expensive than what my monthly mortgage would have been. And so I know a lot of families are facing that difficult decision around what do they do when those costs are pretty close together. Yeah. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Committee Krueger, your hand is still up. I just want to make sure that you didn't have a follow-up. Ms. Connolly, I feel like you could help us understand a little bit more about like what was supposed to be in this report versus what's not. So can you just remind us what was kind of detailed out?
Yes, the ordinance put together by council does say that this analysis should not analyze barriers related to housing supply, and that's because there are other reports and efforts related to housing supply. A big one being the housing action strategy, which there will be a report out on next, and that's a lot more focused on supply. So just wanted to touch on that this was really focused on that home buyer journey and not on the housing supply issue.
Thank you. Appreciate that and all the work going on in this space. I will just, seeing those scenarios and thinking about when I bought my house in either 1999 or 2000. I do not remember, but around that time. I was a single person buying a house for the first time. I went to Borders and bought a Idiot's Guide to Home Buying, because that was, I buy books, right? That's how I learned. I did the workbook, and then I figured out what I could do, and then I met with my credit union, and I did all those things, and I asked people around me. I had all those resources, but I was a single person. If these were the values and what I needed right now, I would not have been able to do this, full stop. Even with a partner, both of us being teachers, potentially with what we were making in 1999, 2000, would not have been able to do this. So, and even right now, if I went to go buy a house, I don't think I could afford to do it. Like, I have equity in my house, so I probably could, but if I just went right now as an elected official, chair of the county council, I don't think I could afford a new house as an individual. So there are issues with the whole thing, and we are doing what we can, and I appreciate you soliciting feedback. So I'm excited to hear from some of your partners. I'll let you choose who's going first and how you want to do that. So thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
I'll Sharana first.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us today and for commissioning this report. I think it's really, really important. I'm Sharana Kildunn, CEO of Tacoma Pierce County Habitat for Humanity. We've been serving the Pierce County community for over 40 years in the homeownership space, have built and sold over 340 houses. And if not for the partnership with the county, we wouldn't be able to do what we're able to do. This last fiscal year alone, we sold 23 houses, which is really big for us. And next year, we just approved a budget to sell 40, which would be the biggest in Habitat's history in one single year. And a lot of that actually has to do with the investment the county has done to allow us to purchase the housing supply from the Housing Pierce County, renovate them, put them in the land trust model, and sell them to income qualified buyers. So thank you for that long-term partnership. We can't do what we do without you. You heard today, Habitat is involved in a lot of different things, from the building process to the home buyer preparedness, and we also do preservation. But if we're talking just about the home buyer preparedness as a HUD certified housing counseling organization, I have to endorse all of the things that you've talked about today and are in that report, especially around the difference of income. At our luncheon in this past March, we had Dr. Ali Moderas come up and speak about the income disparities, and one of his data points, and you can talk to him in more detail, is that in Pierce County, the current jobs that we have right now, only 22% of them actually could pay someone enough to buy a home on the market with the numbers that you saw today. So it is really an income issue as well as an inflation issue of the housing market. The way that we are able to sell and buy these homes is because of subsidy. The buyers that we have coming in that are between the 60 and 80% of the area median income, really to keep their mortgage at 30%, can really only qualify for about $180,000 to $250,000 in a first mortgage. And it costs us a lot more to build and renovate. And even with the existing older housing stock, and I don't want to get into it too much because you have other things, if there are houses on the market for under $300,000, you need to have another $150,000 just to renovate them to be at living standard. So when we renovate homes, we want to make sure that when folks are moving into them, they don't have to worry about a roof, they don't have to worry about water issues, that they can move in and have the peace of mind of having a decreased mortgage payment versus the rent, that there's that long-term flexibility. And as Brian stated, a lot of the funding sources that we have right now are capped at the 80% of the area median income. But a lot of the folks that are coming to us in our housing counseling program and even interested in buying a home, they're some of them are a little bit over income, but we can't serve them because they're over income qualified. So there really is this missing middle. And so we're talking about what could that look like if we were to go above 80% AMI. But the consequence of that is that we wouldn't have subsidy programs through the government, either at the county or at the state, to help offset that, because even over 80% AMI, folks can still not afford what the cost to build and the cost to buy is today. But I think that, you know, as you guys all know, housing is a continuum. And we have underinvested in the home ownership space for decades. And the more folks that can step into that peace of mind of home ownership, there's more civic engagement, there's tax dollars, there's all of those wonderful things. There's the peace of mind that you have a stable mortgage that's not going to fluctuate if you get a new landlord. There's so many benefits for families and for the community by increasing opportunities for home ownership. And the folks that we're serving are nonprofit employees, medical providers, they're workforce families that normally 20 years ago would not even need us today. So thank you for paying attention and thinking about this. I really encourage you to continue to invest in home ownership. I know that you have a lot of different things and you're pulled in a lot of different ways, but if we can really invest in these starter homes in our community, I really do believe that that will create more supply down the road for the entire continuum and will stabilize more and more families. So I invited Tia Dalton with me here today. Tia, you want to come on up? She just stepped into home ownership this year at one of the homes that we renovated with the Pierce County Housing Authority. And she's been looking for a house for about 6 years. So she's going to come talk to you about her journey. Thank you, Tia.
Good morning. Oh, can you hear me?
Can.
Yes, good morning. I'm happy to be here and actually grateful that I have the chance to use my voice to talk about this subject because it is very personal to me. So as Sharana said, my home buying preparation journey really began about 6 years ago. I got most of my information on that process through the Housing Finance Commission. It's all over that website. I've taken the first-time homeowner class, home buyer class, 3 times. That's how long it took me to get into the position just to be able to even entertain purchasing a home. So one of my biggest barriers was absolutely employment, trying to find sustainable income. There's lots of temporary jobs out there, but not a lot of permanent ones. And one of, as you all know, one of those requirements is that you have to have a job for 2 years. So if you've got employers who are not, hiring full time, even though you've never been late on your rent, you've got an impeccable rental history that doesn't count on your credit because it's not required, where does that leave you? Right? That's not something I had control of. So I did what I had to get myself into a job that had a sustainable income. And then from there, it was working on credit because when you're in that temporary work cycle, by the time you finally caught up from one job, you're in that gap trying to get another job, and then you're back using your credit cards or having to borrow money. And it is a vicious, vicious cycle to get out of. But it can happen. It can happen. And so I contacted a lender and my, person who helps you to find a home. I am drawing a brain fart right now. But I reached out to a couple people back in, oh my gosh, let's see here. I started all the way back in February of last year. Actually, one of the first things I looked at was Habitat, but at that time, because of the AMI, I did not qualify. So continuing to look for other programs, and eventually in July, I was able to actually hit the ground running, had gotten a pre-approval offer to know exactly what I qualified for, and I didn't go into any of this blind. Like, I knew that my income and what the housing market was, there was a mismatch there, and that I was going to probably have to get creative and not just where I ended up purchasing a home, if I could find a home to purchase in my amount, but that I might have to extend financially a little bit more than I wanted to. But in looking at being in an apartment that was the hottest thing in the 70s, it's no longer the 70s, and being charged $2,000 for rent was not feasible at the wage that I was making. So it didn't make sense to try to stay there. So was this strategic? Yes. Was I absolutely nervous and afraid I was going to faceplant in trying to find a home in this range? Absolutely. Absolutely. I was not fully convinced that it could happen, and it almost didn't, because even circling back to Habitat, I was only $700 away from not even qualifying for this. I'm a nonprofit employee. Like, if a nonprofit employee cannot afford a home, a basic starter home, what is that saying about what we're doing for our community? What does it say about our priorities? You know, it shouldn't be, no one should really be put into this scenario where you're having to choose to work in a field that you're not passionate about because you can't afford life. Because that's the difference between the public and the private sector. Technically, everybody in this room is a public sector employee, right? So the journey has been long, but I'm grateful that I finally got here, and I am appreciative that I was able to access the resources through Habitat, and not just through Habitat, but also through the county. I even looked at City of Tacoma, but those funds had just run out. I had found a house that I really liked in Tacoma, but there was no more funding, and without that additional down payment assistance, it wasn't even reachable. So, yes, came up here not quite sure what I was going to say, and very nervous talking about my story because I'm very private. There was a real risk of me becoming homeless again. I've been homeless 3 times in my adult life. I've been housing insecure almost my entire adult life. I've been financially insecure almost my entire adult life. And I was facing the real possibility that I was going to be homeless again. Because $2,000 rent? At least $40 out of one paycheck. What does that leave for anything else? So one thing I want to kind of hone in on in reading the report that was done by the county is that the 80% AMI is wholly inaccurate. Wholly inaccurate. And I know that it's not necessarily us in Washington State setting that standards. I know that that's coming from higher up, but as a state and as a county that does amazing things in pushing communities forward and pushing for more equitable scenarios that people can thrive in, I think that there's a real opportunity here to make a difference, not just for the people of Pierce County, but probably even wider than that. We are always at the forefront of change, so why not be at the forefront of change for this and do it loudly? Thank you.
Thank you, Tia. I appreciate you sharing your experiences, and congratulations. Ms. Kildon, do you have anyone else?
No, I want to say thank you to Tia, and I also thank you for sharing your story. I know that that can be really hard and scary, and you did an amazing job. And I also just want to say one more thing. You guys have a phenomenal housing staff. Brian and Shannon and Robin are so great to work with, and so I just wanted to give them a little shout out. Again, the partnership with the county is phenomenal, and I really, homeownership is so important. So as you guys are thinking your strategies, please continue to invest in homeownership.
Thank you. And Mr. Schmidt, do we have Community Land Trust as well? Do you want to do a quick introduction so that remind us what this is?
Yes, Kathleen Hosfeld is from Homestead Community Land Trust. They're recently coming into Pierce County to do some projects, so I'll introduce Kathleen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having this, convening the report. Congratulations to the staff for doing such an excellent job. Thank you so much for the county's interest in increasing homeownership opportunities for lower-income households. Homestead is entering Pierce County at the request of communities primarily in the Hilltop neighborhood, but we hope to partner with other jurisdictions as well as the years go by. I think we were invited to have a presence here because we're willing to build condominiums. We just have completed 2 condominium projects in the Finney neighborhood of Seattle, and so we've done we've offered a spectrum of types of homes from townhomes to row houses, cottage homes, and now condominiums, as well as rehab homes. So we bring some willingness to accept risk in our housing solutions. Focusing on that issue in the report that said we don't want to talk about supply, even if we go back to the primary issue that was in the report, which was income, we inevitably have to return to the issue of supply, because the primary income challenge is that there has grown since the 1990s an egregious difference and gap between incomes and housing prices. And I'm not an economist. Lord knows, I was an English major. But when you look back at the housing prices and incomes prior to 1990, incomes and housing prices tracked each other. They kind of went up. There was an arm's length difference between those, but in Seattle, the median incomes were higher than the median home price. And decades prior to that, people could expect if you had a good job, you could qualify for buying a home, even on a one-income family. Mm-hmm. But starting in the 1990s and the early 2000s, that changed. So when we talk about income and we talk about the challenges that people are facing, finding affordable rental, as well as homeownership, we have to talk about income, and we have to talk about income qualified prices and the prices that are appropriate to folks of a certain income. So that inevitably brings us back to our colleague Habitat model, who's been doing such great work here in Pierce County and Tacoma. And the Community Land Trust model, both of us share a commitment to what we call permanent affordability. And I do want to just make a small technical aspect of our shared work clear. It's not just the removal of the land value that makes the home affordable. When we build a home, we face the same challenges that a builder does of what it costs to build a home, a market rate builder, but we generally are subsidizing both the land value and a portion of the cost of constructing the home. So that means that if it costs $400,000, $500,000 to build a home, but our target buyer can only afford around $200 or up into the low threes, we have to subsidize the price of that home. And the difference between market rate prices, the cost to construct, and what's affordable totally outstrips the amounts of down payment assistance that are available. So home prices and incomes have diverged such that in many respects, the down payment assistance ship has kind of sailed. We are going to have limited abilities to use down payment assistance to get people into their first homes going forward until we figure out this egregious mismatch between incomes and housing costs. So we just think that emphasizing the importance of programs like Habitat and Community Land Trust permanently affordable homes going forward is part of that toolkit that goes to creating your robust spectrum of housing solutions in the county to address that 0% income all the way up to 80% and beyond. And I'll hold there for questions.
Thank you. I did see Committee Member Herrera, your hand was up for quite a while, and then you just put it down. So I want to pause and see if you had. Okay, you're not unmuting, so I'm going to go to Committee Member Curver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Interesting presentation, and I was curious, you had mentioned about, having to subsidize different things. Is that to mean, or what I understand from that is that you also raise private dollars to help with your projects to make things affordable, or is it all subsidized at some point?
It depends on the project, to be honest. Some projects we can build with just affordable housing dollars, public affordable housing dollars. Some we do have to get private philanthropic support. Sometimes we use a strategy called mixed income, which means we will sell market rate homes and take the difference between what those cost to build and what they sell for to cross-subsidize affordable homes. So there's a variety of strategies we can use to make a project pencil and ways to fund that.
Okay, I don't think it was your organization, or maybe it was the property in Frederickson that, I don't know if that's a community land trust or not. It was CRC dollars.
I think that's Habitat.
Okay.
The Frederickson project is Habitat.
Correct. Okay, I guess part of the issue I have is when the land does not go with the home. You're basically forever renting.
No, that's not correct. Sorry, I didn't mean to contradict you.
No, please do.
Yeah, in permanently affordable homeownership, the legal description of the land is different than the legal description of the actual physical home. It is the land that is held in trust by either Habitat or the Community Land Trust, but the home itself, the sticks and bricks, real property, is what the mortgage applies to, and that is owned outright, leasehold mortgage by the homeowner, just the same way they would own it if they owned the land as well.
I guess I'd say it's like a mobile home without wheels.
It's not mobile. It's really just taking the land out of the mortgage.
Right, and that's, how does a bank work in doing a loan when the land doesn't go with the home? Because if the home is destroyed in a fire or something, and you don't own the land, it just, how does that get differentiated at a bank?
What a great question. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are players in regulating mortgage financing nationally. They have approved permanently affordable home ownership as a legitimate way to finance homes because, and they have an interest in what the banks can recover. So these are accepted transactions that have, the home has value. I think it has the same way of a home with land. If a home with land burnt down, the only thing that would be left is the land, and that's not the largest value of the home. It is the improvements on the land that typically are the more valuable, and those are covered by insurance, and they would be covered by insurance in the situation of a Habitat or a Community Land Trust home.
Interesting. I just was curious how you would define that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you for answering some tough questions, and Committee Member Krueger for asking tough questions. Okay, we're going to go to Vice Chair Ayala.
Just one quick question. Thank you so much for all of this. I'm curious if there's, from the community land trust world or models like it, if there's any work that's happening with the state in terms of advocacy that allows the work to strengthen, and what might that look like this upcoming year?
Are you asking opportunities the state might have to make the Community Land Trust spectrum more robust? Is that what you're asking?
I guess the intention of the question really is, we're having the conversation about home ownership. We want to bridge that gap as much as possible. What have been some challenges to us bridging that gap that we can advocate for?
Oh, thank you. I love that question. I think the biggest barrier to creating more first-time home buying opportunities with permanently affordable homeownership is the availability of public housing dollars, full stop. There have been we share a lot of the same challenges with our market rate developers, which is anything that affects zoning or permitting costs or the fee structures that are applied at the local level, or the ability to go through the permitting process in an expeditious fashion. All of those things we share with our market rate colleagues as things that slow down, create friction, drive up costs. And so to the extent that we're trying to address those for all housing developers, that's a good thing. I think there are always things that we can do to address the drivers of housing costs. But one of the things that we want to be careful about when we do that is we don't want to sacrifice quality. The community land trust, the permanently affordable approach means that we keep those homes affordable for 99 years or more, which means that if we're responsible for those homes, we're responsible for maintaining them over time. And that's one benefit of the model is once the public invests in one of our homes, they don't reinvest to recapitalize and refurbish our homes. That becomes the responsibility of the CLT and the home buyer. Making sure that we are supported in building quality that will last and be low cost to maintain for income qualified buyers is also really important.
Thank you. Committee Member Krueger, I see your hand up again.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just this model just really intrigues me. What does it do on property taxes? Is the land trust paying property tax?
No, our homeowners pay property taxes, generally speaking, unless the developer has bought into an MFTE program, which we don't generally do. We want our homeowners to be paying property taxes, but the Department of Revenue has issued guidance to assessors on the best way, the most fair way to calculate those property taxes, which is to recognize that homeowners don't own the land. They own a leasehold interest in the land, which actually has a monetary value. But they own the sticks and bricks, if you will, and then that leasehold interest. And the taxation should take into account the government restrictions on and the funding restrictions that are on the homes. So that gets applied in different ways by different assessors across the state, but the state has recognized that these are slightly different, need to be assessed fairly based on what homeowners actually own.
Well, then I'm also curious in that if it's just the house and say it's a $350,000 house, well, my home at one time I think was a couple hundred. And now it's a lot more than that. So in 25 years, that 350 is going to be, maybe it's 600. How are they going? Is it assumed that they really don't need to be in a low-income home? Is this a permanent? Would they have to find something else if they no longer income qualify to be in a homestead home of this nature?
Oh, excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, 25 years later, all these are more expenses, and it would be no different than having owned the home and the land in the first place.
So our homes appreciate according to a resale formula. That resale formula tracks real incomes going forward. So the idea is that homes will appreciate kind of the way they used to in the old days, where the home prices and the incomes tracked each other. So we're trying to sort of reinstate as people that this is the way it should work. So this is the way it's going to work. The home prices, we don't know, frankly, what's going to happen with home prices. If they kept at pace, a $300,000 home today, 10 years from now, could be worth $1 million. and be unaffordable. I think what the permanent affordability takes into account is affordability is not just a one-time, one-generation issue. And that's sort of the way we've been thinking about it. I think we keep thinking, oh, if we just allow enough people to buy into their first home now, this problem's going to work itself out, and pretty soon we won't have to do that anymore. And what we've seen over the last 20 years, 30 years, is that no, this gap between home prices and incomes continues to grow. So we have to have, and maybe there's a solution for that. I'm not an economist, as I said before, but in the short term, our employers need folks that can live and work in the cities where they work. We have to solve this problem in the short term while we work on these longer term issues of the mismatch between homes and incomes.
What about if the homeowner wants to add a deck or a garage, an addition? How does that work?
Yes. Oh, and I should go back. We don't income qualify folks after they buy in. They income qualify and then they stay in the home until they choose to sell or they pass that on to their heirs. But with respect to what we call capital improvements on the home, if you are making a significant capital improvement in the home, especially one that expands the livable space or expands the livability of the home, most community land trusts have capital improvement policies that give folks credit for the investments that they make in the home. And so the goal is to make sure that those investments don't take the home out of affordability going forward. But so far in Homestead's program, and we've been around for 30 plus years, we have not had a home go over income because of the capital improvements that our homeowners have made.
What is the general rule if the land trust were to dissolve? What happens to the assets?
Committee Member Krueger, I really appreciate your conversation and your questions, but we do have another presentation, and I'm just looking at the clock. So,
okay.
And I think maybe potentially having you set up time to learn about community land trusts specifically might be great, or we could see if we have capacity in our future human services meeting. Is that?
Well, I guess never mind. Thank you.
Happy to come back. Also happy to meet with you anytime, Councilmember, and give you CLT 101.
Okay, thank you. And again, we can make sure that you get connections with email. I know that we have them through Mr. Schmidt and can connect the dots. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, so we're going to shift to our third